with Katara, Katara steps in Toph's direction, with her response still being very retaliatory. It shows us that, despite their occasional differences and conflicts, Team Avatar is still a single unit, and once one of their own is hurting, they will all set aside their differences and come to their aid. Again, just like we'd see in The Runaway. On top of that, it also reinforces Toph's very stoic worldview, with her just saying that she doesn't care what she looks like or what others say, saying that she's confident in her own skin and that's all that matters. Sure, hearing harsh words does still hurt in the moment, and the entire blind bandit persona is also a pretty clear rebellious act to carve out her own personality. But at this stage in her life, she knows who she wants to be and she's moved out of that box her parents had put her in. It is a story of knowing yourself, being comfortable with yourself, but still being able to find common ground with someone very, very different. Toph is not the type to get makeup, and in many ways, she even hates just the thought of it since it reminds her of the life she left behind. But at the same time, she is willing to make compromises even if it means stepping out of her comfort zone. It is a very low-key story that I think is deliberately planted there to disarm us a little bit, to make us lower our guard as to what we should expect in the rest of this episode. That's obviously not a dig at Toph's story. Self-image is a very big subject, and there is also a form of loss in terms of her family. That much is true. But her story isn't about wallowing, misery, or being overset. No, it is one of stoicism. Right away, she stands up for herself, which just establishes a sense of these will be bite-sized stories with quick resolutions and likely have relatively low stakes. And that is precisely when we drift into the tale of Iroh. Before we even talk about a story here, I think it's extremely important to contextualize who Iroh really is. Looking back, and even on a first viewing, Iroh is just about the most lovable father figure and mentor that you could probably ever write. Everything from his care of Zuko, banishments, to his seeming complete 180 during the siege on the north, to his usual tea antics, to his brief conversation with Toph. Everything about him is just pure and good, right? Well, how? Because as much as I think we don't want to admit it, Iroh was once a part of the thing we are currently trying to stop. He led siege on Ba Sing Se for 600 days. Almost 2 years, non-stop. Even if he never got into the city itself, 600 days, that is tremendous human cost. He was an incredibly dangerous general. He was meant to be the Fire Lord. Not just that, he is also part of the White Lotus, which, if you've read the Kyoshi and Yang Chen novels, is not just a group of high-show warriors. They often get into some very, very shady things. And I think it's in knowing that context that his story here is just elevated to incredible heights. I think the vision of taking Ba Sing Se
there's an emerald door here.
Misunderstood is the perfect encapsulation of what Iroh's life turns out to be. Everything he does is not just an act of purity. No, he is desperately trying to make sure that others don't lose sight of their true paths, just like he himself did. I think that is precisely why he always cared so deeply about Zuko. He was largely a mirror image. He saw Zuko speak out against the Fire Lord because he didn't want to sacrifice people. That literally got him burned. He doesn't want Zuko to be broken down and turn out the same way that he did in that dark stage of his life. So what he does is just try to mentor Zuko and try to repay the damage he himself inflicted upon the entire world. Even the smallest of things like adjusting the Moonflower. After losing everything, he begins to appreciate what he buys a picnic basket saying that it's for a very special occasion. Turn very much made Chekhov's basket that he's writing that brought in the back of our minds. We also see him already singing one of the version of Leaves from the Vine. The little doll of the Earth Soldier just ready for what's to come. He tries teaching the kids with the moral lesson, saying to admit their mistakes. Again, it's for what's to come. But once again, he also disarms us as we see this goofy Scooby-Doo-esque chase. He even helps out a little thief, just saying that he doesn't look the type and ends up helping him, yet again dropping one of his very iconic lines of, while it's always best to believe in oneself, a little help from others can be amazing. Which again ties right back to Zuko's story, but even more importantly, Iroh's own story during the war. With no one left by his side, he just fell apart, and it's only alongside Zuko that Iroh found some level of peace. So with all of those nice little acts of kindness out of the way, he walks to the Lone Hill, unpacks the basket, simply mutters, the most tragic thing about all of this is that Iroh would re-experience this exact pain all over again in Zuko and 3. We of course know that eventually it all ends in smiles, but for Iroh, it was a journey and a half. What I think hurts the absolute most about this episode, no matter how many times you watch it, is that while Iroh is always a very introspective character, more often than not, he was also pretty. I mean, just a few minutes ago we saw him chased around the community fashion roads. But I think it's exactly because of all of that disarmament that this hill slammed into a hole. If Top's story was one of not looking back and facing who you are, then Iroh's is a ridiculous difference. Those simple words of if only I could help you, everything we just saw is immediately contextualized to a rather deeply respectful, desperate attempt to make up for his past. Which were not just random into kindness. No, he is trying to help the very people who were suffering because of his war. To put it in a more abstract form, Boston saying is no longer the city that he could reach. It is the city that never. Iroh's tale explores the somewhat paradoxical situation where you have it all. Just like incredibly wealthy people often find themselves in the midst of loneliness, Iroh is one of the strongest people we've ever seen. But in the midst of death, he's completely, utterly helpless. No amount of strength, no amount of kindness, nothing could ever bring the sun back again. So while his own life might be tainted by that regret, he now just does everything he can to make sure that others never end up in the same position and pursue the goals that they were all aiming to. Just like Zuko, just like that thief Sir Lad, just like Tom, and just like anyone else who has had the pleasure of sharing a conversation with them. As much as I don't want to talk about it, well, just don't want to make this little goofy video sad, but Mako's performance of Weeks from the Mind is just the most tragic. That warm embrace of the setting sun falling over, as his voice just cracks beneath tears, and the lyrics contrasting the beauty of those fragile loops and the horrific hope that little soldier boy does indeed come marching home. It's just, I don't think there really are words to describe the sheer emotional weight of that short, simple song. I think for Iroh, as well as I imagine many of us watching the series, it just means so much. Anyone who sat on that desperate wish that they could have taken that burden away, hurry, chance. Alright, we're all good? Not really? Well, great, because I think that's exactly why Aang's tale serves as the follow-up. Remember what I mentioned with the different tales covering the emotional spectrum? Well, I think Aang's story is meant to be that bit of catharsis right after the emotional devastation that was the tale of Iroh. In broad strokes, Aang's story isn't exactly a happy one either, with him just still desperately trying to search for Appa. Don't forget that air bisons are supposed to be a lifelock of humans. So I think at this point, Aang is not just questioning his abilities and responsibilities as the Avatar, but he now also finds himself asking whether he's even a worthy heir no. Unlike Iroh, where it's those final moments that will make you start bawling your eyes out, Aang's story more so embodies that healing angle I mentioned earlier. Everything he does is still with the hopes of finding his flying buddy, but in pursuit of that, much like Iroh, he wants to help those in similar positions, and so he ends up instructing an outdoor zoo. We get a visit from everyone's favorite cabbage merchant, which is also the last time we've seen, by the way, with the space to be operating. We see a little bit of controlled chaos, but all in all, the conclusion is a happy. He hasn't found Appa, that much is true. There is still hope, made by those three little rubber hoops popping up. It's not a blunt smash cut from the devastation that is leaves from the mind to a wholly happy story where all is right in the world. Rather, it's a smooth transition from that sad regret to a still somber but positive story of
Let me throw away some junk.
without Aqua, but there's new life all around him. Life that too is in him, just like himself and just like Aqua. The tale of Iroh conveys the powerlessness in the face of loss, while Onyx conveys hope. What is a very blunt transition, however, is the one we get to Sokka. We've now all calmed down a little bit, and we are sitting there with still a tearful but a smile. And that is precisely when the episode turns on its head, and we get what is easily the goofiest story out of the bunch. In classic Sokka fashion, he somehow finds himself in a haiku battle of almost intensity. While the whole thing is played out for laughs and doesn't really linger on any explicit form of loss, I think it does perfectly convey Sokka's personality to the broader narrative. Outside of a few select situations where he does indeed act like a bit with Yoshi Island, Sokka is quite the social chameleon. He immediately finds common mechanist, he later takes charge of the entire scene preparations in the Northern Water Tribe. Even smaller things like managing to draw out emotion from Top during the whole runaway debacle, or even his famous long fire disguise. No matter what situation you put Sokka in, chances are he'll be able to fit right in. On top of that, as much as he is often the belief, Sokka is also a certified Mega Brain. Him and, again, the Mechanist figuring out the whole rotten names, then putting together the entire invasion plans and quite literally designing a submarine. That said, he often gets up in his head and sometimes just a little bit overconfident and fails in the very, very last stretch. Just like we see here, as well as with this big invasion plan presentation. But what makes Sokka special is that most of the time, he doesn't let those moments get him down, and I think that is the message here. He finds himself in an awkward and uncomfortable situation, somehow manages to stumble through it, but even if he ends up failing at the end, he still makes it a learning opportunity. In many ways, I think it's a spin on Top's story. If she can't just avoid these situations outright, she confronts them head on. Sometimes, maybe a little bit over. Sokka, on the other hand, is a lot more easygoing and is just down to try just about anything, so long as he can learn something from it. Okay, I must conclude, because I lie a little bit when I said I don't think Sokka's tale will score loss. So in a way, I absolutely think it does. Not in the form of the other tales where all lost explicit someone, rather in loss himself. Later, with Sokka's master, we see this explored a little. With him wanting to undergo training because he felt like he's just some dude on Team Avatar while everyone else is a bending master.
I can't do anything. Each of you is so excellent, so special. It's the guy.
So in a way, you can interpret everything Sokka does, from poetry to his engineering prowess, as a form of finding that true self. For his entire life, he has wanted to be strong, just like his father was. But when he gets that opportunity to be just like him, he again is in that last stretch. But he still did the rest, right? All of those achievements leading up to that point should be invalidated just because he couldn't stick the landing. No one's a jack of all trades. And I think that is what this tale is all about. It's about being open-minded. It's like things you might have never imagined yourself doing and not being afraid to fail. He can still be that brave warrior like his father was. He can also have Sokka, the whimsical guy doing poetry, engineering submarines, and selling on simply old package juice. So as you return to that ending of the episode, we've seen the depth of sadness in the minutes for a couple of minutes. Now, Sokka just trying the best not to rinse past the fight. Very nicely, listen to the tale. Much like the rest of the cast, I think his tale is basically a concentrated version of his entire story, delivering both the happy highs as well as the very, very lows. At this point in the story, he is unaware that N2 is within Ba Sing Se, and seemingly has found some limitations. We of course get the whole whimsical angle of Zuko thinking that Jin is some sort of undercover spy, while in reality she is like. But underneath that goofiness, I think this tale deals with this deeper sense of anxiety, not like conflict, generally possible. After their, we call it, maybe slightly awkward dates, they actually share a very touching moment of seeing the fountain and lanterns together. Even after the events of Zuko alone and being entirely ostracized for being nearly a firebender on his help, he still lights those lanterns in hopes of just making Jin happy. For the first time since they were brought in Ba Sing Se, and really for the first time since management, he allows himself to just enjoy the moments. And, not really. After they kiss, he just begins to pull away, and just rushes back to the tea shop. He tells Iroh that it's nice, but that's not happens. Much like Zuko himself says, the emotions here are complicated, because for that moment, he really was that lead for just Zuko. He wasn't the banished prince, he was just a guy helping his uncle from a tea shop who was went out on a date. Then there is that spectre looming over, always holding the back. Just like we later see with May, Zuko's trauma is just what keeps him from opening up. The one time where he was truly compassionate and honest, got quite literally burned. So it's only natural that he can't do that again. He desperately wants to leave that burden behind, but time and time again, can't. Neither with Jin nor with May, Zuko would never be totally honest for the simple reason of him still not being honest with himself. Something we'd see on movies like wow guy. So is him telling Iroh that it was nice what he did, or is it merely not sad night? Considering the events of the Crystal Catacombs and how much those decisions haunt him later on, arguing both ways. Might have enjoyed the time they shared, but much like with Philo, there's a certain amount of resentment for himself that he wants to be happy, but why does he keep pulling himself away? Why did he rush away if it was really nice? Why is he himself keeping him from enjoying these things? Much like the rest of the Avatar narrative at this point, I think Zuko's tale of transformation very blatantly shows us that underneath all of those layers and layers of trauma, there is still purity. There is still a teenager who could just go on a date and not carry around the baggage of the baggage place. At the same time, just like his name takes from that boy, transformations are important. He has taken multiple steps away from the title of the baggage prince, but even the name he has chosen for himself is still loaded with that regrets. Even now, there is still a long Zuko to go to just Zuko. I think his loss isn't even a specified thing, rather almost a state of mind. He's lost his mom, he's lost his family, he's lost his crown, he's even lost himself, and goes by a thing. He himself is lost, and that is what this tale is about. And as with every great redemption story, he still needs to take one big fumble along the way. Right? And on that somewhat bittersweet note, the series brings us right back to the very bitter tale of Momo. The end story is one of desperation, but hope. Then Momo's is of utter helplessness and, more important, you know how some people say that they feel infinite remorse about something that happens to an animal as opposed to people? I think much of that is because we perceive other people as these completely captured that to a certain extent at least choose what happens. Of course, there are still plenty of details out of their control, but compared to animals, and especially beasts, they just have a lot more autonomy. Right? Animals, we have this preconceived sense of helplessness that is precisely what the tale of Momo represents. Much like Aang dreams of finding lost buddy, with him being a smart people, but still a little. Almost seems like the world is just stringing him along just to leave him disappointed time and time again. He tries searching further, but gets ambushed, then he comes from the circus animal, eventually just hands it outright. It's that helplessness of the search. It's like it's all story that he can't fight back against, much like what we saw with our actual times like Deathmatch. Though seeing this disgusting hypothetical of what might have been Appa, Momo frees the despite being chased around by them just a few moments prior. He saw, but what did anyone scared for Appa? So as much as he might have made it, but they just take the big Appa's fur and lead it to the massive conference. Even a final shot that is rival language. Much like Hank, there is a degree of hope in Momo's story. He does need it, but he's after all. Unlike Hank, it's not a happy. Purely practically speaking, Alma's paw print is of course a very explicit indication that next time we'd be seeing the tail of Alma. Or in other words, following his footprints, or his paw prints. The shot of Momo just sleeping in that hole perfectly that sense of loneliness that he and Iroh are feeling. All he can do now is just hold on to this shell of Alma. The only indication that he may be close, the only source of hope. Might not be his physical one for most of him, just the best he has. So he sleeps there, in the rain, all alone. It's like holding onto a pet toy after they've passed. It is a desperate design to just fill that empty hole by something, just like we saw with Iroh. I think the reason why this pseudo-filler slice-of-life-like episode resonates with so many people and is easily among the best of Book 2 is because it gives us these deeply personal looks into each and every one of the players and how they manage ups and loss. In many ways, it takes some roller coaster of emotion that it's just life. It gives you a stoic story about forging your own name. Then it follows up with one full of regrets. It allows us to hope and eat. It drops us into this fog of uncertainty and leaves us there all alone. The Tales of Boston Sang is a moment of transformation for the story and for us. Without Appa, we are quite literally grounded and are forced to think a whole lot more about them. In the City of Walls and Secrets, some choose not to show their true faces just yet, while others open up for what might just be the very first time. It ties together everything that came before to guide us to what comes next, shown very explicitly.
What the hell is that?
It might not be an episode filled with action or explicit story developments, but it's an absolutely vital one for the bigger story of Avatar. The tales of bossing say tell us to just slow down, to reflect, to look around and appreciate the little things in this world, to enjoy the short moments of joy and just be, because it's only in accepting your past that you look forward. And that's the video. Oh boy, I can't believe we're actually here. I have no clue how long this was in my drafts and just how many times I've recorded it. It started as a 30-minute video on iRoll alone. To be totally honest with you, I was a couple of seconds away from scrapping it again. But then I realized that it would just become a development hell cycle, so here we are. This was always a really special video I wanted to make, so I hope you enjoyed it. And with that, I want to say a massive thank you to our current patrons and YouTube members who allow me to produce even more of these for you all. Without you, there would be a whole lot less of my ramblings, so seriously, thank you. Other than that, I want to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Is it just me or is the snow really, really thick? I kind of feel like I can't see anything through this. There's an option, I'd probably try to reduce it. Cruz? Hello there, long-lost brother. So if the temperature's too crazy, you're not allowed to sleep if it's too hot or too cold.
One of the most interesting things about Avatar to me has always been how it tackles its antagonists, with it constantly blurring the line between a one-out-dimensional type of baddie, an overarching seasonal villain, and, of course, the Big Bad Fire Lord himself, who will know the entire story. Outside of like a grand fantasy story with dozens of flashing interests and personal motives, you would expect there to be some side villains along the way, and just a big bad at the end. But Avatar just said, yeah, actually no. As soon as Book 1 had the overarching antagonist that is Zuko, who has his own antagonist that is also an antagonist to us, in Jam. On top of that, we also have these smaller scale conflicts with characters like the Prison Boy, Titans, or Jets. And at the very end, there is the big bad Ozai, serving the primary antagonist for both Aang as well as Zuko. So right off the bat, there are multiple layers, and it does feel like this unreachable foe with possible promises. Speaking of, let us address the elephant.
More thick trades. Thank you, Anthony.
As before Zuko's return home, all the way to Book 4, you actually see his face. Each and every time, he's hidden in the shadows, and finds are cold to place. He doesn't deliver any over-the-top monologues, which all adds to the sense of just being truly untouchable. From a creative standpoint, much like the greater Zuko and being unable to express his emotions, I think the decision to hide his face needs to deliberately avoid humanity. Humans are inherently social creatures. No matter how socially awkward they be, they're incredibly fine-tuned to recognize and read faces. And when there's a mismatch between what we expect to see and what we actually see, that is when things get things should be spirit, smile, or get cold. Her face represents humanity. Those eyes. By the way, that is also why Zuko his face already scarred. Without even pointing out he was burned, we already see that he has been wounded. So, while we are a very, very long ways off from joining our side, there is already a very good. But okay, returning to Ozai, as soon as the series starts, we expect some sort of confrontation with the Fire Nation. And in point, our only defensive reference to what that might look like are the occasional squabbles with Zuko and Jam. One of them is the key, and the other one So, on a purely conceptual level, having seen Aang's Avatar states, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Aang just needs a few training arcs and sorted. That is, until we reach the solstice, and not only does a utilized Avatar explain the true ground of the situation, but we are also given an explicit deadline from the first ever Ozai. One which, even in Goku's retelling, is just as far said to be even further empowered by literal celestial events. His power is quite literally out of this world, and there's not a single thing to stop him except to face him head on. Our first concrete details of the Fire Lord are not how it should work. No, he created his avatar and must succeed. Just bluntly tells you, if you don't stop it before the comet arrives, not even a full-fledged avatar will be able to restore balance. Some of the first ever spoken words in this series is of how the avatar is the only one capable of mastering all the elements and maintaining balance. But now, we are told that a single man, something as unspeakable
I'd like to go home, but
I'll
probably use waypoints for that. Let's keep exploring. If we find another waypoint, that'd be great.
Is that Ozai's power continues to be built on. Right after we are explicitly told that
Seems like a sunk cost fallacy type thing I'm doing here.
Solo the sages, Zhao, and implicitly telling us that even this is nothing compared to what Ozai can do. So while we haven't seen Ozai yet, we know that he fed a whole lot more. But we don't stop there, because just a few episodes later, we get another glimpse at Ozai. But this time, it's from a very different perspective. That being Iroh's retelling Zuko's act of kind. We're told of his impossible strength, so now we get a whole lot more up close and personal, and instead see how he uses children social fire protection. From Aang's point of view, he is this horrific fiery monster that from Zuko's, he is just a shadow, forcing him to his knees without ever so much as raising a hand. But most of all, he strikes his helpless son. Ozai is not only possibly strong, he's also absolutely ruthless. If he will burn his own crying son, his own flesh and blood, for just speaking up for what he believes in, what will he do to the only person who threatens his freedom? Even from broader fantasy tropes, very often you'll see the whole father respecting his son for speaking up for what he believes in, if their own personal opinions oppose one another. The mere act of speaking up is already worth respect because it shows that they are confident in their own opinions. That is kind of a quality you want in your successor, right? On top of that, it is considered very dishonorable to strike helpless targets, even more so when that target has explicitly surrendered. But again, for Ozai, absolutely none of that matters. If anyone or anything challenges him, they will burn his own son. There's another angle explored even as far back as Book 1. After the Siege on the North, we also see him send Azula after them. An idea that the live-action version played with as well, so we'll talk about that in a second. Here, we see that manipulative side of Ozai. He nonchalantly calls his own brother a traitor, his son invaded her, and then sends his own daughter after him. This is a Game of Thrones level dysfunctional family, but that's just who Ozai is. He is monstrously strong, he is ruthless, but perhaps the most dangerous part of him is his manipulation. Just from a handful of scenes, he is immediately cemented as the ultimate bad. And while it may not really seem like that big of a deal, doing something like this requires extreme confidence and planning. I mean, there was no guarantee that we would ever see a payout to this. Avatar was not new. On top of that, only naturally, the longer you tease something, the more the audience's expectations build. So you already face the possible challenge of trying to satisfy the headlines people constructed. Don't get me wrong, professionally, you absolutely cannot fault a story for the reader/viewer typing themselves up and then being disappointed. But as much as I say you can't do that, that doesn't matter. This isn't science where you must adhere to some strict rules. The audience is disappointed, they're disappointed. It doesn't matter how quote-unquote valid that is. You must keep those expectations in mind and value accordingly. When it comes to media and just about every consumer facing real perception is reality. The single closest comparison I can put in, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything, is the basement of 2 example take. Much like Ozai, it's a worthy established way back in season 1 that doesn't see a payoff until the incident. Very simply enough, there too, the story is based little and small. So with mysteries like this, you must always remember that it's why the whole saying about reality never expectations exists. Because people are unfortunately coming up most fantastical and possible things, and then setting ourselves up for disappointment. So, when a story manages to stick the landing, well, that is something special. Okay, you may now ask, why have I gone on this whole spiel about I will never happen, and yada yada? Well, it's just a cool sounding title, but that is not actually true. Exhibit A, the live action version of Avatar, Touch Trailer. Wasn't hit like seriously at all. Okay, settle down, Mike and Brian supposedly left. Talk about that in a second, but that's Apple's glory news. But wait, Your Honor, have the record show that there was also rating down the podcast. Mike and Brian.
I think early on we said that this guy is supposed to be bad. A was never gonna fix him. Just two books and mystery around and stuff. You know, in retrospect, maybe it would have been interesting earlier.
So, like I said, the fact that he's never actually worked up until it's just something you don't see on him for the simple reason of saying being out morally great. One of the most common things you see nowadays, especially after the likes of The Sopranos and Breaking Bad, is everyone trying to write the next Martial Lights. Everyone wants to have an incredibly bad dude who, despite his twisted acts, the audience sympathize with. It is always a matter of if he does something evil, you must understand what it is. And that right there is the problem, because frankly, most people cannot write a Walter White. The reason why we don't see a lot of Ozai nowadays is because if you want a quote-unquote complex villain, you can't hide him for like 90% of the show. Right? Not every bad guy needs to have some tragic backstory or justification. Sometimes it's perfectly fine to have a bad guy, just a bad guy, he's bad.
I agree.
Or gone even all the things. Most parts, these are evil dudes, just evil, and that is totally fine. In Avatar's case, we actually already have Zuko as that quote-unquote best antagonist, with him taking many swings and roundabouts to find his place. But as far as Ozai goes, he is just bad. While it is obviously incredibly interesting to explore how villains explore insecurities, what they can take, etc., this is not the real world where understanding that there is like a net positive. This is a fictional setting where simplicity often makes for just a better story. In the same way that The Lord of the Rings is a story of a battle against evil, Avatar's story is not a political drama. It is the story of restoring balance to the world. Ozai is the villain in that, plain and simple. I also have a bit about the subconscious of Aura and how that simplicity also leads. So it's of course not a concise solution. But before we move on to the payoff of this entire thing, I want to return to that point of Mike and Brian when we talked about the potential for I don't think it's a coincidence that after their departure from the Netflix series, they are still credited as the writers for the Ozai and Zuko Agakite. I say that because I think the way it shapes out is a very interesting spin on what we actually saw in the original, and I would not at all be surprised if much of this is their actual vision that I want to talk about. Throughout the first season, that angle of Ozai picking Zuko is played up a ton. So that narcissistic and manipulative angle of him is really brought to the forefront. For him, they are just pieces on the board to forward his own position, and beneficial, those pieces can also be very easily sacrificed. It's basically the same thing you see in the animation, only more of it and it's really pieces. But by far the things are of course the changes at the time. Like we talked about a second ago, the animation, that hopelessness was portrayed with the fact that Zuko never did. The Netflix version of it then allows Zuko to dodge around and block it when flow. But importantly, throughout most of the fights, Ozai is just casually keeping his hand behind his back. This constant toying with him is his very twisted form of teaching Zuko a lesson. One that climaxes with Zuko supposedly finding an opening in Ozai's defense. Apparently, and I genuinely don't know how, some people have interpreted the scene as Zuko actually getting a hit on Ozai. But to me, it was pretty clearly
Oh god, I'm getting woozy.
to see what because he is still fishing for a successor. He doesn't have some explicit hatred or love for Zuko or Azula. Both of them are just tools.
I was like, wait, what's happening to my mouth, to my screen?
Because she was a prodigy, and the only reason he hated Zuko
I was getting heat stroke.
him as weak. So I think with this sequence, in a way, it almost elevates that ruthlessness that was in the original. This is not Ozai just coming to the Agni Kai and striking Zuko if he does nothing. No, all of this is toying with him and trying to teach him this very twisted lesson. And to really cement that, it's not just one blow to punish Zuko for holding back. Rather, he crouches down, explicitly tells him that compassion is weakness, and very, very slowly burns him while never even flinching. Zuko is his firstborn son. He is supposed to be his heir. So this is him trying to forge him anew one last time. Him later visiting Zuko is not some act of care. Just like the animation, it is him just giving Zuko this carrot on a stick just in case he manages to prove useful. So going back to that Mike and Brian point, it is a very, very different spin on how to reveal Ozai, but making up for that by showing us just how twisted Ozai is, even with him roasting a bunch of dudes. It removes that monstrous and unknown side of Ozai that we see from Aang's perspective, and instead zeroes in on that cold ruthlessness from Zuko's perspective. Going back to that a face is humanizing angle, the fact that we linger on Ozai as he deforms Zuko says everything you need to know about who he is. A face is fundamentally humanizing, but in this sequence, it is actually dehumanizing Ozai as that same fiery monster. But alright, enough of the live action, let us move back to the OG where our big fire boy has been kept 100% in throughout the first two books. And much like the rest of his characterization, his true introduction is another stroke of genius. Like with most of the story, the opening to Book 3 often parallels the stories of Zuko and Aang. Where Aang feels the absolute furthest from being the Avatar, just like he did during the storm, Zuko has actually returned home and is being praised as a national hero. But importantly, in the same way that Aang is now masquerading as a part of the Fire Nation, their flag literally pulling over him, the theme for the entirety of Zuko's story is also exactly that. He is masquerading as that hero. The dominant feeling on Zuko's side of the story is just plain unease. We know full well that Aang is alive, and we know full well that Azula is setting up Zuko as just a fall guy. Which brings me back to those monstrous depictions of Ozai we had seen thus far. We've now gone from this unreachable fiery monster to Zuko standing at Ozai's door. But nothing about it is in any way triumphant. He is still scared. Even now, Ozai is still a fearful figure. Something that I think is conveyed beautifully by that fiery overlay imposed upon Zuko. And the absolute greatest parts, as Ozai rises and walks through the flames, the first words out of his mouth as we actually see him are just, "Welcome home." This is one of those times where direction elevates the episode beyond anything written on paper. Because in any other story, building up this big bad Fire Lord for years, only to reveal him as just some dude would seem kind of pointless, right? But with how the episode unfolds on both sides of the narrative, it is like walking a knife's edge. The music, the constant paralleling to Aang, who flies directly into a Fire Nation blockade, potentially exposing Zuko at this very moment. Everything about this is just plain unsettling. This is supposed to be Zuko's big moment, but it's not. He is right in the clutches of his father, who burned him for the mere act of speaking out. What would happen now if he were to learn that Aang is indeed alive? Personally, I've always thought that the thing that separates a good show from an excellent one is when the direction uses this almost fourth wall-breaking way to manipulate the audience based on their expectations and perceptions. Without getting into massive spoilers, think of the Attack on Titan Season 2 wall reveal. None of that is really story per se. It is rather a very meticulously planned dance with the audience itself. Which is why I also have a 40-minute video about it. Just like we see with Zuko here, it might just be a simple reveal of Ozai's
I think you just like making 40-minute videos.
He doesn't have a third eye, and he's not some demon. But it is the execution of that quote-unquote simple reveal that makes it so great. This is not just a story as it is written on paper. No. It is taking advantage of the medium itself to plant us as the audience in the same headspace as Zuko and Aang. I think that is also why the whole subverting expectations saying became such a meme. Just like I said, not everyone can write a Walter White. Very few people actually know how to manage those expectations in a way that just doesn't feel cheap. Hiding Ozai only to reveal that he is Giga Chad would be cool, but like, what's the point? Hiding Ozai, building him up as this unreachable foe, and then revealing him not through the protagonist, but through this oddly cold and weirdly unsettling welcoming is a whole other story. Literally, actually, because it is Zuko's story. Avatar is obviously heavily inspired by anime, and with Ozai being the big bad, everything points to him being a villain exclusively for the protagonist. But he's not. Which very nicely leads us onto the raw power of Ozai. I rambled a whole bunch about making Ozai be this fiery devil and how it's that anticipation that colors our perception of his strength. So, what do you do once his face is already shown and he is no longer a mysterious shadow man? You could just do Aang versus Ozai and it'd be great. But what you could also do, outside of the very extensive emotional manipulation that is the Day of Black Sun. I think it's quite easy to forget that outside of the finale, we basically don't see Ozai bend at all for the simple reason of building that anticipation. And big surprise, the only time we actually see him bend is against Zuko. I think their confrontation during the eclipse is basically the perfect encapsulation of everything we've been talking about thus far. Only this time, the series briefly tips the balance in Zuko's favor to really show us that ruthless and almost reckless side of Ozai that we only got glimpses of with the Dragon Kai. Right away, we see the confidence and almost snarkiness of Ozai as he immediately dismisses his guards, jesting that this truth during the eclipse is bound to be interesting. And to immediately showcase that, as Zuko reveals that he was not the one to bring down the Avatar, Ozai's response is a very, very calm, "Why would she lie to me about that?" Keep in mind that for Azula, setting up Zuko as the supposed hero who brought down the Avatar is a win-win for her. If Aang is truly dead, it actually doesn't matter. Clearly, Ozai favors her as she is the one who almost single-handedly conquered Ba Sing Se, and again, based on his totally calm reaction, I don't think it's a stretch to say that Ozai always suspected that the final blow was also Azula. And the most convenient part for Azula, if Aang were to survive, Ozai already considers Zuko a failure, so he'd be far more willing to accept that it had indeed been Zuko who once again failed. And that is once again demonstrated beautifully with the following scene.
Because the Avatar's not dead. Survived. What?
For the first time in the series, we see that the all-knowing and almighty Fire Nation were actually entirely duped. And that's not even mentioning the fact that this too is mirrored on Aang's side as their entire invasion is completely lost. More on that in a second. The greatest thing about the rest of this conversation is how it shows us the many different sides of Ozai. We've now seen him genuinely caught off guard, but we also see him very quickly compose himself and let Zuko speak his mind, only butting in with his remarks when Zuko insults his or the Fire Nation's supposed pride. I think that is best showcased by him saying, "Oh, you must have learned a lot from your uncle," only to grow very, very annoyed when Zuko says that, "Yes, I did. Those are Iroh's teachings, not yours." Just like their Agni Kai, all of this is a matter of pride. Even if he doesn't care at all for Zuko on a personal level and he's just a tool, implying that his brother is a better teacher than him just hits a nerve for Ozai. I mean, this is a dude who came up with a new title for himself just because. But as Zuko turns to leave, saying that it's not his destiny to fight Ozai, he pulls the ace up his sleeve and mentions his mom. So again, that very manipulative angle. And suddenly, we've gone from this intense but simple confrontation to that same fear and unease of Zuko's return at the start of Book 3. Suddenly, the board is flipped completely upside down and Ozai is once again in complete control. Once again, the direction plants us directly in the shoes of Zuko as we are just captivated by Ozai's monologue, only to get completely blindsided about why he baited him into staying in the first place. Even very visually, the camera punches closer and closer. From the room, to Zuko beginning to cry, to a close-up of Ozai's face. Those almost claustrophobic shots are pushing us further and further until suddenly, we fade back to the sun. If thus far the series had been extremely coy about Ozai's bending, then here he literally dual wields lightning bolts with the tiniest fraction of the sun peeking through. This is but a glimpse at his true power, and he uses it against his own son. This is Fire Lord Ozai. A ruthless bender with power absolutely eclipsing Azula and even Iroh. Keep in mind that Ozai thinks Zuko is weak. He doesn't know of any lightning redirection techniques, and he outclasses Zuko in every sense of the word. But even so, he goes right for lightning. The most deadly and way overkill technique imaginable because Zuko hurt his pride. And very visually, Zuko redirects that cold and ruthless blow. He is not a killer like his father, and he rejects the power that is lightning. As we've learned, lightning redirection takes an immense amount of self-control and confidence. One wrong move and he could be dead. But with almost no practice, he still doesn't just unleash it randomly. No, he shoots it not at Ozai, but right next to him, sending the Fire Nation flag falling to the floor. And that is when we see Ozai's true face and his true rage. His failure of a son rejected him, disrespected him, and somehow even resisted a power that should just not be resistible. He revels in raw strength and superiority. That is why he names himself Phoenix King. He views himself as the chosen one to end this war, to transcend the nations themselves, and to surpass even Sozin for whom the comet was named. He wants to rewrite history with him alone at the very top, and if the world needs to burn in order to achieve that, so be it. He is a byproduct of the ever-tightening grip that is the war machine started by Sozin. One that, after 100 long years of war, now faces its biggest and potentially final challenge. He no longer cares for successors. With the blessing that is the comet, it is all or nothing. That is who Aang must now face, the Fire Lord, the Phoenix King, the little to no knowledge of how to firebend, and the fear that stems from burning Katara. He must now face fire, the element that consumes all, be it Katara or the entire world. The most beautiful and often overlooked thing about Avatar is that it is so much more than the sum of its parts. Much of Avatar's storytelling relies on themes and ideas that are then interwoven into multiple perspective characters, most often of course Aang and Zuko. The storm is a very literal storm, but it is also a metaphorical one. The fear of being lost in the storm that is life and destiny. Something we explore through two directly opposing sides. The Day of Black Sun, it is a crushing defeat for the invasion, but it is also the greatest triumph. While it might not have been Team Avatar facing Ozai, the first shot of this final battle is actually Zuko. He is the one who brings down the Fire Nation flag, and he is the one to announce that the Avatar has returned yet again. What I'm getting at is that Ozai isn't just a great villain because we don't see him until Book 3. He's not just scary because he is so much stronger and infinitely more ruthless than anyone else in the series. He is all of those things and more because of the familial and antagonistic themes we explore through both Zuko and Aang. He is the manipulative father who Zuko desperately wanted to impress, but he is also the single person threatening to essentially destroy the world. Avatar is not a One Piece where keeping someone hidden for literally hundreds of chapters is basically a form of world building. Avatar is a short and closed narrative. Keeping Ozai hidden for most of it and just unveiling him in Book 3 shows a very great amount of confidence that he will not be a disappointment even with so little explicit screen time. To be totally honest with you, I do think that if the series came out today, perceptions around Ozai would be different, and maybe more people would say that he is too simplistic when compared to even Azula, for example. Like I said, so much of storytelling nowadays has shifted to this always morally gray, complex, layers and layers of backstory type of writing that I think a whole lot of people just can't see the forest for the trees, sometimes myself included. The reason why I don't think we see a lot of Ozais nowadays is because he is simple, but it's the story and the world that he exists in that are complex. He is just an evil dude. But what makes it interesting are the countless themes of betrayal.
Jesus Christ, that scared the shit out of me. What the fuck?
Transformation that we explore to face said great evil. In the race to make everything morally gray,
who the fuck is Judy?
Very easily become
and why?
Gray.
Is his or her presence so freaking important that it needed to that it warranted a jump scare?
Based into any story and have it be the greatest thing ever. No, not at all. But I think in the hands of an artist, sometimes instead of making everything gray, leveraging that contrast that is just a black and white straightforward villain makes for some of the most interesting stories, not of evil, but of good and of peace.
I agree.
And that's the video.
Gray characters are overrated.
Watch time for me anyway, but the live action version has sped that up a little bit. So I think you can expect plenty more very soon, especially now that we know that the entire story is happening in live action as well. Also, side notes, there are rumors flying around that the adult Aang movie might have been pushed back to 2026, and the animated next Avatar series is actually happening in 2025. So whatever the case, there is plenty more stuff to look forward to as well. Basically, we are eating real good. But anyway, with that, I want to say a massive thank you to our current patrons and YouTube members who allow me to produce even more of these for you all. And let's also give a warm welcome to the newest member of the team, Yannick or Janik O'Drell Perot. I am so sorry if I butchered the name, I definitely did. But without you, there'd be a whole lot less of my ramblings, so seriously, thank you, thank you. Other than that, I want to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
I'll put all of the relevant workstations downstairs on the very bottom floor. Is this really the only orientation this can work in? What do you mean the angle can be enchanted? Excuse me? Uh-huh. The 9mm are pretty cheap, all things considered. I still need gunpowder. And it's still only creepers to get those pretty reliably. God, it's a full moon, never mind. I was gonna say, maybe I should go try killing some creepers. I find it pretty hilarious that you can, without a workbench, make torches. This is bad! I remember now! I wanted to make an upgraded iron arrow bow. Why is she so good at dodging? Got the gunpowder we needed. We can finally start packing heat, baby. I didn't mean to. Oh, yo, that's some cool attention to detail. They're doing the thing Resident Evil 4 does as well, where you can put in an extra load when reloading. Hell yeah. We can make a few more bookshelves for the table, right? Although honestly, I feel like it would be better if I just move this. Probably the roof, there's plenty of space here. Even though you're made of obsidian, you don't need a diamond pickaxe to get dismantled. I'm a local librarian. I'd probably make a mine shaft down there too, honestly. Probably be very convenient. Show. I have no idea what all of those things are. Cool. Yo, Flame. Can you enchant guns? Unsurprisingly, no. Okay, I want flame for my bow. I kinda want more gunpowder. Where else can I find creepers? Within a safe environment. It appears my mining fatigue is kind of permanent. I should probably just start a proper cattle farm, and honestly, this place is pretty cramped. I'd prefer to live somewhere more open. Let's see here. What was I gonna do? No, seriously, I was gonna do something, but I forgot. Why did I come back to the house? Yeah, I'll keep the hat. Oh right, I wanted to milk a cow and make another iron bucket. That didn't work out well. Alright, my mining fatigue's gone. That was 8 iron too. I do want more stone. Yo, what? It's quite expensive, but that is a genuinely good trade, I'd say. I forgot to hold right click. My parkour skills still have a long way to go. Okay, I can make that. Nice. Torches, I've been here before. Ah. I'm feeling a little reckless. Ooh, they dropped leather. Yikes. Okay, that was really effective. These boulders, I can get rid of them quite easily now. Honestly, killing them isn't worth it. Waste of ammo. There must be some structures I can raid. Structures typically have gunpowder. Thing that comes to mind immediately are... There could also be a trading place for them. Not confident with the ammo I have left I can dose. Switching to melee, although I am a little bit more powerful in melee as well. What about the pillagers? I heard there was a way to make pillagers have guns. Yeah, that one's a bit intrusive. I need to save and quit for things to apply. Oh, never mind. Just save and quit for the... Yo, this shield doesn't have any cooldown. A horse mount would be cool. Unrealistic, but I kinda wanna. Who doesn't wanna blast people on horseback? We're the pillagers. Huh. Copper's genuinely good to get now. Ooh, a fleet. Should I explore? Traveling around by boat in the ocean is like a really terrible idea, from what I remember. There's just a bunch of fucking mobs that like to beat the shit out of you from below. Right, the phase of the moon still means it's gonna be really dark at night, so yeah, very much not a fan of this. I can't see jack shit. A harpy? Ah, I don't care. I'm gonna sleep in your place, good madam or sir or whatever. A cool paper and a compass. Why do you not have a bed here? Yeah. How about here? Uh, wanna try looking for warmer biomes? Why doesn't the waypoints get fucking marked? There might be some stray creepers roaming around. Hold on. Not a creeper. Way more dangerous than a creeper. Ah, not again. Oh yeah, I forgot I can do that. No strays, no stray creepers. Very sad. Ah, there you go. Actually, let me fucking store my stuff first. I was supposed to play Blue Reflection, but I got way more engrossed into this than I thought I would be. I want to find the desert temple first. I know that's a big ask. But I need to do this. Fuck. What's that noise? Fox. I love how this makes climbing up stuff like these so much easier. Obviously, it's more than just that it's easier, it's also just more dynamic and fun this way. Another backpack. Fuck. It kinda came out of nowhere. And again, villagers do love doing that. Okay, now they just like spawning around that structure. That structure's a pillager spawn. Oh no, this structure's a pillager spawn. I'm not dealing with all this, I'm running. Ooh, holy shit, that's a vindicator. What the fuck? Stop bothering me! I'm also kind of trying to look for a grave site. Those always have good loot. I recognize this tower. I don't think they have gunpowder. Oh wow. And a magic tower's nearby it as well. Not bad. I could probably use some more bookshelves. Diamond. How does that even work? More diamonds, hell yeah. God damn it, I suck at free falling. I need a place to stay in quick. Right, end the video there. I require respite. Are you people friendly? Thank God. Ooh. Why does it not show my arrow? That's a taiga. Dang it. Worlds only ever always seem to be all cold biomes or all hot biomes. Well, actually, this is a rainforest. And this is a savanna, and then... Oh yeah, I completely forgot about this place. You know what? I need to find a waypoint. I'm getting out of here. And then that's where I'll end. Not using the axe for combat anyways. Oh hey, yo, another tower. We're still gonna have a spider spawner, which I'm gonna keep this time. And honestly, this place is pretty good. Aha, there's a village over there. With any luck, they might have a waypoint. I thought using waypoints was supposed to have a cost. I'm gonna see if I can do something about that. Teleporting for free is a little overpowered. Dang it. Yeah, nice open area. It's a nice place to settle down in. Yeah, I quite like it here. No waypoint though. Damn, that's an expensive crafting recipe. But sensible enough. Come on, there's gotta be one nearby, right? Dang, what is that? It's another one of them big end game dungeon thingies. Oh, no, Waystone. There's another big end game thingy over there. Look at that. That is sick. Why did the village I went to get blotched out? Yo, golden carrots. I think I'm just gonna manually make a waypoint. And by that I do mean that we will cheat. shipwreck. Kinda disappointing. Damn it, what am I doing? Ooh, a crag. I really gotta stop. I should probably keep waypoints as something free. At such a cost, and that might be a disincentive for me from exploring like this. Oh god. It's a really big crag. Lots of iron to be found there. Best way to avoid fall damage. Yeah, baby. This is what we've been waiting for. Welcome to the land of iron. Perhaps you could blame me for my lack of traveling intuition here. I really did think I was gonna come across another waypoint at some point. Whatever, just these ones. You know what? Let me go to the village and set up a thingy there too. Think of it as an advance payment, I guess. I'll go pay for them later. Okay. I don't know what is global means. Alright, there's just one thing I wanna see. And then I'm gonna go. Oh, yo, channeling, I didn't notice. Alright, last destination south. Oh, it's a golem tease. Dang it. Oh, a jungle over there. I'll be sailing next episode.